and we're off to the races. All right, guys. I've titled this one "Winning in the Market," and this is part commercial, so it's like how do you win work, but it's also part mindset. It's to reset your mindset about creating opportunities through sort of public notice boards or different commercial type opportunities. And I'll just share my screen. Let's see, share. Can you see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay, so if you think about the world, we have all these things called companies or organizations, and they provide goods or services. And they provide those goods or services to clients. Now, you've if you want to be part of this enterprise, you've actually got to go and get a job at one of these companies usually. You've got to come and participate here and they'll pay you an amount, or you've got to create a company that does a service, and then you supply it to the client. The cool thing is we live in a world where many of the sort of the arrangements between the company and the client are put on tender boards. So there's public information. So if I look here, this is buying for Victoria. There's hundreds of different jobs. Now, this could be any type of opportunity. So this could be a grant, it could be a scholarship, it could be a bid, it could be a tender, it could be a request for information, an EOI, whatever it is. There's a whole world out there of opportunities where commerce is happening. And usually big companies want to look at these things and they want to bid on work so that they can keep their business going. And they've got salespeople that look at that and they spend a lot of money doing that. So I remember when I used to do consulting, probably 15 to 20% of your time was chasing work, trying to find your next consulting engagement. The cool thing now is, though, because you can see this relationship between the company and the client, and Harper, your dad would do this for the excavation jobs. The excavation job would come up, he'd have to tender for it. Bruce probably does it for the water industry. Randall probably does it for his CAD work. This is just a standard piece of work. But then you've got this percentage win rate, right? How do I compete against others to maximize the chance that I'm going to win this tender? And companies are very interested in that number, because obviously if you increase that number, you increase the revenue and the profit of your business. And so there is an opportunity here to provide services to these companies to win this work. And what we can use is we can use AI to do that, to help us do that. So what I've done is I have downloaded a tender here, and I've sort of pre-done this activity. So if it stuffs up or goes too slow, I can just show you. But let's just put that one away in the console for the moment. So I've got this tender here for electrical services. I think it's for, I won't go too into the detail because this is obviously their commercial tender that's out in the market, but Melbourne Polytechnic wants electrical services. Pretty straightforward. And they've given us a EOI, probably some sort of schedule of what they want. Let's have a look at that. So they've got like a response sheet that they want filled out, and that usually has their method and OH&S and some bits and pieces. So they've got that response sheet. They've got clarification questions. They've obviously had some sort of to and fro with the vendors with questions, and they've answered them about the job. And then there's some clauses. This is probably some sort of contract. Model clauses for this piece of work. Okay, so this is probably the contract that they want you to sort of follow. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, let's say, now if you worked for a company, you would obviously have a whole bunch of documentation and collateral about your company, so it gives you context to respond to that tender. But in this case, let's do some competitor analysis. Let's try and figure out, and what we'll do is when we do the competitor analysis, we'll actually find one of the companies and we're going to use them as our mark. We're going to use them as the one we want to help to win the work with AI. Okay, so let's pull up. I'm going to use Claude work, but you can use anything for this. You could use different things. I just find this more powerful. So documents, I've put it in this folder, tenders 2. Allow. And so now I'm connected to this folder, which is where I've got my tender documentation. And I'm going to say something like, I would like you to read all the tender documentation in the project folder and just write me a simple overview of what the client wants the service provider to do. So this will, the good thing, the reason I'm doing this, just for logic's sake, is you always want to do a starter prompt to get the agent to go and read it all first. Because there's no point asking a question of the agent if it hasn't read stuff. So we're just going to give it, we're going to let it explore, it's going to read all the documentation, it's going to figure it out, and it's going to be able to write us a response. So it's obviously read, it's brought in all of these things. It's going to read, so it's asked it to read all those things. The agent's going to read all those docs, and then it's going to write the summary for the user. And it's actually, this is giving us the folder and the docs that have been loaded into the system, so we know what it's looking at. And if there's context, like if we actually, if we refer it to documents, it's going to actually, for a task, it's going to put something in there so it knows what to look at. So we're going through. Now, the usual way to do this would be, and this is where I want the mindset to start thinking about. Your normal way of answering a tender is you look at the criteria, you think of your company, and then you write your best answer. But what you haven't done when you do that is you haven't considered your persuasion filter. Why would someone buy from you? And you also haven't considered your competitors and what's your positioning. Okay, you might think I can win this tender, but if you only do it based on I can do this job and no market competitive positioning, then your chances of winning might be even lower. Okay, so we've just got a little overview here. We're looking for a services provider. At the core, they want a contractor that can do services across all these campuses, routine maintenance and compliance testing, 3-year period. This is EOI stage. Bidders must hold valid Fair Jobs Code pre-assessment certificate, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the only reason I really did that was just to kind of get a view of what's going on here, but also to get it to reread, sort of like pre-read the stuff to load it into its memory. Now what I'm going to say is I would like you to go and do some market research, and I'd like you to identify 4 of the top companies in Melbourne that would be most suitably qualified to do this work. Okay, so we'll just do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find the competitors to this tender, because what I can also do is then I can start to understand what might they bid into this. And therefore, what competitive advantages or disadvantages does my business have? So we're going to research Melbourne, evaluate them against the tender requirements, compile a short list of 4, and then present the findings to the user. Now, I'll just have a look. Okay. Now, I'm just going to go over to Google Gemini. I'm going to see. Okay, cool. So the first step is to find the competitors. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you work for one of them. I want you to do some market research and compare this company and write a research document that talks to all of the strategic advantages over the competitors. Now, in this case, that would be you. But let's... so boom. So it's pulling down potentially hundreds of businesses. So the trick here, I think, is, most people would just get the tender, answer it, and send it in. Mm-hmm. What we're doing here is we're trying to find the competitors and the attributes of success so as that we know what the levers are that we can compete against. So it might be price, it might be service, it might be skill, or the answer here might not be to actually bid for the work, it might be to partner. Okay, so it's found this company, this company, this company, okay, so this company works in tertiary educational maintenance. Okay. All right. So let's pick that particular one. So let's say we're this party here. Just say, I work for that company. Please do some deep research on this company and write me a document that includes all the skills, experience, attributes, capabilities, workforce, compliance, safety, etc. type attributes that would help this company win the work, and write me a document that includes all that information from publicly available sources. Okay, so we know the tender. We're picking a top company as identified by the AI. And now we're going to go off and we're going to write a document with all the kinds of skills that this company has against that would basically help us win that work. While that crunches away, because that will take a bit, what I might do is come over here and I will give it this is the expression of interest. Okay. Shit. Did I just close the wrong thing? I think I did. Oh no. Okay, so we'll let that work. We're finding all the attributes to basically win that work. let's say we're working for this company, but let's do it from the other point of view. Let's, I might connect to tenders too with an agent. So while that's working over here, I'm going to create a new agent, and I'm just going to connect to it here. Please make my project folder documents/tenders 2. Okay, please review the tender documentation in the project folder, all the files and subfiles. And I'd like you to write for me a summary in detail of what you think the tenderer is looking for to win this work. I want you to dig into each requirement and actually think through what the differentiating factors would be to win this tender. What would the organization care about? And write this as a document. Now, the reason I'm doing that is tenders are, this is going to be your persuasion hook. Okay, so you're coming at this from, let's go and find the skills that these companies have to win this tender. And then we're going to have, what do we think that the vendor would really want to basically drive this stuff? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create the hooks, the hook on the vendor side and the hook on what capability we've got side. But what we're firstly going to do is we're going to look at the hook in comparison to the competitors. So we're going to go and do some market research on those other providers. So we've got the, what is it, the MGM or whatever it is, company. We're going to go and compare them. What would the comparative advantages be of that company over these other companies? So we're going to go and try and find that, work that out. And then once we've got all those data points, then we're going to write a master prompt to write a response to the tender that takes into consideration the narrative of what they want, the competitive positioning of where they are, and we're going to use some persuasion tactics to write the response. And that's going to give us a way more powerful response up front. Is this making sense, guys? Am I going too fast or
No,
no?
makes sense.
Okay, so I think this is deep research on MEM, comprehensive research. Let's build the document. Now, it's important to note that obviously if you really worked for M, you would have access to their qualifications, their workforce, who's on the project. You know, you'd have a whole bunch of data that you could feed into this process. But because I don't have that data, I'm synthetically creating it. But there's kind of two things. You could use this skill working for that company. So basically you're trying to bid on this work. Or if I could actually get intel on this, I could potentially go and talk to them about helping them win bids or something like that. Okay, so now we've built the company profile. So we're going to have a look. Just remember, this is just data at the moment. We've got the clients they've got. So they've obviously got a whole bunch of stuff on their website. So we can build up really rich. We know who the people are, their resumes, their certifications. So we've got like a really broad picture. We've even got their qualifications, and all of this stuff is publicly, this is all on the internet. This has actually gone and done deep research to find all this stuff. Okay, so now we've got our company profile. Now what we'll do is we'll say, so if we go back up here, okay. So now I could say to the agent, I work for MEM, and I'd like you to also go and do some competitor analysis on the other identified companies likely to win this work. But this time, I'd like you to think deeply in your research where my blind spots might be and document any features or attributes of the other organizations that might make them more competitive than me, and think through how I could defend against their position to maximize my competitiveness. The other companies I want you to do this for include those companies. Okay, so now I know that I'm this MEM company, but what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go look at these other companies and try to find the blind spot and actually try to figure out how I could position against these organizations. Now, again, this goes back to our persuasion filter concept. If we understand our competitors and their positioning and what they're likely to say, we can come up with a plan to persuasively create a narrative arc that will maximize our probability of overcoming. Okay, because you remember there's always a tender team at the end. Now, there is a price that drives tenders. So that's one thing. And there's reputation and qualifications, etc. But you don't necessarily have to own one of these companies. You just, as an AI practitioner, you might actually go, what's going on in the market? Who could I talk to? How could I help them win bids or whatever? So this could be a service offering. You could actually go to the market and say, I want to help you win bids. And you might write bids for them. And a lot of companies do that. They apparently they pay people to write the first draft of bids. And I think I heard they were charging, like, this was like in the Philippines, like $2,500 per bid. So it's like, it's big money. And if you were able to take the process I'm going through here, now at the moment I'm doing this manually, but potentially you could automate this. So all the steps I'm going through, you could do it. You could build an agent and you could do this at scale. And therefore you get all the data for free on the tenders website. You've got all the details of the people. You can potentially go talk to them and say, hey, I'd like to help you win tenders. And maybe you say to them, I'll respond to tenders for you. And I'll only take a fee to the ones I win. How about that? And they might go, yeah, okay. You don't know. So just think of every tender as a potential source of revenue. Now, if you're one of those companies, if you had a no win, no fee kind of arrangement where you went and identified the best companies for the best tenders and then offered them a service to write the tender, and if you win, you get a fee, then it's like, what's the price of that? You might be able to take like a percentage of the transaction potentially.
The other one I've seen this for is government grants for schools, sporting clubs, etc. Similar process.
Yeah. So it could be research grants, could be construction bids, community fundraising, all that kind of jazz. So we'll let that do the work. So we're doing the contrast. This one will probably take a little longer. Okay, so what I might do now is, wasn't I doing something? Oh, I was running another agent, wasn't I? It was the this one, the winning strategy. So now I'm going to go back to the other side. So we're sort of doing the competitive analysis on one side. Now we're going to go to the other side of the problem. And we're going to pull this up. So the winning strategy. So that's still writing that. So the winning strategy will be, so here, they obviously asked for something in a tender, but what we're asking it to do is to go deeper and say, what are the kinds of things you think this organization will want to see in the tender? You know, like just emotionally, they'd probably go, well, we want someone local. We want someone who's going to be responsive. We want someone that shows experience. We want someone that's safe and is compliant. So if you understand that and you actually frame that up front, and it may not be 100% clear in a tender document, because obviously the people that craft these don't write very well sometimes. So if you can do some sort of that emotional work to try to figure out what they really want, and then we use the AI to feed the capability back in. Okay. So let's have a look. This is not the cheapest electrician wins. It's a government institution. It's got the criteria. It's got what they ask for, what they actually care about.
I heard price isn't really the issue.
Well, it probably will come into it, but I think they want, you know, demonstrated experience. They want you to know these areas, what they really care about. So, okay, so we've done a good job of framing out what we think they want. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create. Now, I would normally wait, but I might say, I'd like you, I'll see if this works. I'd like you to create for me a Microsoft Word document with the that builds me a compliant response schedule that populates all the information about what is desired in each section as per the winning strategy material. This template is what we'll use in a next step to write our bid for the services. Okay. So in there, there's I think it's the response schedules part C. So hopefully it works that out. It picks that up and it's going to write us the, I'm just not sure if this has access to the skills, but we'll see if it does. Yeah, Python doc skills. So that what it's going to do is it's going to write software to write the document so as that we have a template that we're going to fill in. But what we're going to do is we're going to pre-populate it with what they really want. And then on the other side, it's still researching, but it's creating the document now. So it's gone through the deep research, analyze the competitive blind spots, and now it's writing me the competitor analysis. So do you see how I'm creating vectors from both angles? I'm looking at the market and what I need to bring and the competitive positioning and the narrative. And then I'm looking at like what they want. I'm looking at the skills they want, but also the sort of the psychological elements. And then once I've got all that data, then I'm actually going to bring them together to write the bid that's compliant, but I'm going to do it in a way that is sympathetic to the requirement, and also it's going to be competitive against the competitors. So we're going to put the hooks in there so that when we write stuff, it's going to make us maximize our... Okay, so the playbook. So this is some of their strengths. This is how they align to it. This is their weaknesses. Okay. This is the other group. Again, the strengths, the threats. So if they're closer, that's a risk. Now, I've limited this to 4, but I could actually do this to 10. Or if I knew who my competitors were, I could give it the information of who my competitors are. Okay, so we've done that. That's cool. That's our threat analysis. Let's see. How's this going? The company profile, and hopefully this one is writing us the template. Okay. So we might just do this from 2 angles. Let's just do it raw. Okay. So now I should wait because it'll be cleaner. I just don't know how long this will take. Oh, here we go. So we're writing the Python to write the document now. Now in here, you don't see that happening, but it's pretty wild. Like, so if you're writing Word documents still, you know, going through and you're putting, you know, spaces and formatting, etc., you don't really need to do that anymore. You can just grab the text, chuck it in and say format it, and this will go through and write code, Python, to write it on your behalf. There's another skill as well that is in Claude. They've given us the skill to write PowerPoint decks as well. So you can now write fully professional PowerPoints. Okay, so the response template should be there. So this is already pre-populated, probably what they're looking for. Okay, these are the extra guidance points, probably. Now, you'd have to be careful with this because if they've got specific criteria and you answer something what you think they want, but we'll persist at the moment just for time. Okay. Okay, so I want you to review the EOI ELEC 2026 response template.docs, and I would like you to respond to the tender as mem with the information and context provided in the mem company capability profile.docs. But I'd like you to do it in a way that follows the winning strategy, EOI, elect, 2006, electrical services, MD. MD. I'm just going to change the name on that just so it doesn't. I'll just call it winning strategy. So I don't know if that'll screw up. Winning strategy.md. I'd also like the agent, to do a review of the MEM competitor analysis defense playbook.docs, to write it in a way that persuades the vendor review panel to pick you over the competitors. So you should make comments that draw out the competitors' weaknesses or contrasts, or find a way around your weaknesses. Please do this. Please write professionally, meet all of the criteria, but also try to be persuasive in your language, like Robert Cialdini would think, to get them on your side, to maximize the probability of winning. Now that is a bloody complicated prompt. Boom. Now I can see a world where you could actually build an agent to manage this process, to build drafts. I would never just submit one of these tenders, but if you started with a draft like this, it's probably going to be, let's say it's 85%. Also bring in a lot more data about your company, so you could actually have previous qualifications, resumes and all that kind of stuff. And you could actually build this as a service for companies. And the number one metric, now there's just a win rate metric. So if you can actually demonstrate that you can improve that win rate for a company, and particularly if you could monetize a percentage of the deal, that would just be money for jam, particularly if you could automate it. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Randall. And what I might do is, the last step is, once I've got my tender document, I may write sort of a pitch proposal for the presentation or whatever. So if you go in and present to them, you can write the PowerPoint as well to go along with the boring documentation. So it's actually pulling out the original, so you can edit it directly and then reread the main EOI for detailed requirements. The XML is very complex. So it's actually, I didn't tell it to go and look at the original requirements. It's just worked that out. So yeah, as I said, I found a tender. We're at 8:40, so I'm 40 minutes into our lesson. and I've nearly finished the proposal. Now, it would be a draft. It wouldn't be perfect, and I'm sure there'd be a lot of rough edges on it. But I've got a draft to start iterating with the team. One of the things that I think needs to change with AI is the velocity in the way you work. So imagine if I'd completed this piece of work, sent this to another person, sent it to Randall, say. Randall reviewed it. But instead of Randall, sitting down and typing, just all over the document and actually editing it, he could just sit down and work through the sections and say, hey, you missed out this, you missed out that. What about this? I think you could emphasize this better. He could just put his feedback on it. And what we could do is we could feed that, or he might have other contextual information that, we want to bolster it with. And then what we do is we just feed that back into the agent and we run another draft. So the iteration velocity is what's going to make workforce more efficient. So
Did anybody see the article in the paper today about how couples are now using AI to fight against each other? So they unload to their AI, who then writes a nice response. They cut and paste it and send it to their partner, and their partner grabs it and then gets the AI to write the response back to that, and they send. So effectively, two AIs fighting each other.
Oh, unbelievable.
But you could then imagine, let's say we finish this. We get our tender documents. You might have to go to a vendor briefing. You might have to go and meet with the client. You could potentially do research on that person. You could potentially sound out all your competitors, like with the competitor analysis. And you could help it write you a script of the talking points or just the subtle things that you want to get across to persuade them to go with you rather than the competitor.
Yeah.
And it might not be, but you can use psychology. So this is why persuasion in AI is so important. Because at the end of the day, even if you're the best candidate for the job, if you can't persuade another human to select you, you're not going to win. So it's always that human angle. And it's actually storytelling. You've actually got to tell a story of why you want them to emotionally want to pick you. Okay, so now we're running the command. The response document. I think this will be the response document. It's just validating that. It's converting it to PDF to review it. And yeah, so if you were to send this document to the managing director of the company, he would obviously, it doesn't really matter what you write, they're going to have feedback. You can take their feedback, you can bring it back. You could say, well, based on this feedback, what should I, you might ask the agent, what should I do to fix this bid based on the feedback? And it will give you some advice. And sometimes the best thing might be to do is to send that advice back to the person and say, hey, if I did all these things, would that meet your feedback? And if they said yes, or they clarify, you make a few adjustments, and then you come back and you ask the agent to make the updates. And then you get the agent to validate whether the updates meet the feedback compared to the original. So it can do like a quality check. You then do your final human review, and then you send it back. So every cycle in sort of deliverables and work should speed up because of this. Now, I know, like I used to work for professional services firms. This is a really heavy, expensive activity to respond to tenders. It's big business. If you can be smarter than your competitors at it, even if it's just at work or wherever, you're gonna do well. And the other thing you could do, if you wanted to, is you could actually go on those tender sites and just pull it all down and go, well, who could I help in the market and what are they doing and what are the value sources? So you could say, I'm an AI expert. How can I help these companies win this work? And you actually might not respond to the tender. You actually might build some product or service or innovation that helps them win the work. Okay, so we'll open up. Yep. So it's done a bit of a crappy job at formatting it, but it has written who you are, why it matters, our structure, our certifications, provide details of your capacity, your relevant experience. It's got a whole bunch of examples here. So that's probably, now obviously the quality of that would be way higher if you had access to their kind of previous call data, but this is what it's pulled off the web. So you've probably got a pretty good idea. You're a partner, not just a contractor, a single point of contact. You've got reporting. You've got the target measurement method, OH&S, all the certifications you've got, how you go about that. Now, if you wanted to, you could make this more verbose. You could make it simpler. You could structure it however you want. But that's all in there now. So let's say now, now I'd like to use my graphic design skills, and I'd like to create a pitch document that speaks to the criteria, is sharp in its structure and delivery, and has enough slides to present the key information in 15 minutes about the company and the proposal. Please create the output in Microsoft PowerPoint format and be professional. Okay. So now we've got our response, we've got our data, we've put all that, the boring sort of performance stuff together. Now we're going to write I guess the sizzle on the sausage, if you like.
Yeah.
So we're going to extract the text from the EOI response document, the NEM capability profile. We're going to install Markdown with PPTX support. Extract the content. Extract the MEM capability profile content. It's going to extract the EOI response Python. So I'm not telling it to do all this. It knows all these files because I've been working with them. So it knows what's there. It knows the context, and the agent is now doing this work for me. Now, if you hired a young person to go and build you a PowerPoint deck for this task, a really good consultant would probably take days to write this document, I would say. A junior one would. A senior one would be quicker, but yeah, it's going to take you some time. Now it's like frustrating to wait for it in a few minutes. And just think about like your run rate as a business. If you can do more of these and you can do them to better quality, and you're going to have better conversations with the vendor, you're going to be able to, we might even do that next. We'll say, if I was going to have coffee with the person, what should I talk about? What should my key talking points be? And what should I try to have a conversation with them about to persuade them that I'm a good person to deal with? So we'll try that as well. So if you're in site, if you want to sell something, and I reckon Harper Kerr could maybe learn how to do this to write tenders for a dad. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Do you understand what's going on, Harper?
Yeah.
So we're writing bids for companies. So like your dad probably gets proposals to do earthworks. and he has to write all these responses. And what we're doing is we're using AI to help us write those responses.
Yeah.
The physical mechanism of how it all works is just, it's beyond belief, isn't it?
Yeah, and at the moment, it's still in its infancy in terms of the amount of compute it's getting, amount of speed, and you've still got there's still a human in the loop here doing this logical stuff. But like every single smart person in Silicon Valley now is now saying within 18 months to 2 years, this will be able to do the whole jobs of accountants, lawyers, business people, commercial. Like, I think there still will be humans involved, but I mean, in reality, could you write a better bid from scratch than this is coming up with if you gave it all the right information?
No.
Probably not. And
No.
maybe if you spend a lot of time on it, but if you respond to more bids with higher quality, with more persuasive inputs, you're going to increase your conversion rate. And so your focus then is not sitting down in the office writing all these bullshit documents. It's actually going out there and talking to the market and actually building relationships.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like you win work based on trust more than anything.
Yep. And yeah, that's right. I had to do I was working on a legal document with my solicitor. So I plugged it all in and came back, and I had to make a phone call to him and say, look, I've gone down this rabbit hole. I've been fiddling with AI after my course. And he goes, oh yeah, we use AI too. And I said, I'll send you my 3 drafts. Can you get back to me? So this bloke's in his probably 60, 65 and my age. And I bet he was thinking what he was thinking when he was talking to me.
Yeah.
It brought up some pretty interesting things to add or, to consider.
Yeah. And I was talking to someone the other day that had a dispute with a property manager, like on a rental. And he, someone he knows works in a legal office, and he got, I think it was Claude, to draft him some letters and stuff of what he should say in the situation. And he gave that to the person that, was in the legal office. And that person said, look, this would take a lawyer a day to draft and probably wouldn't be any better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it wasn't like a high stakes dispute. It was more just a kind of, meet your obligations kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so okay.
When I sent it away to him, he goes, yes, I'll look at it over the weekend and get back to you. But, very good.
And sometimes it's good to just use it to toy with the concepts. How do I shut this dispute down? What should I do just to make it go away? And it'll give you some options, and you can make a judgment. I wouldn't use it for really high stakes stuff because, but I also find the ChatGPT one particularly dangerous because it's really sycophantic. Like, it's always on your team.
Yep.
I think that's the wrong. I think that AI should be looking for truth. It shouldn't be looking for, make you feel good about something. So this should be, I think that's done, but let's have a look at it. Where's the...
Actually, the ChatGPT, it came up with 3 versions. It came up with a landlord strong version, a commercial version, and a sort of a low level version. So it sort of half did think a bit like that, but I'd like to see how Claude and all that go.
And you can also think about like scenarios as well. So you say like what's a way of getting this where I want to be, but without being too strong?
Mm.
So you kind of push them into a position. Yeah, I don't know. I've just got this thing at the moment where I don't really want to deal with anyone commercially. Just because I think there's just so much opportunity out there to just do stuff on your own, or just in, collaboration with someone on a discrete piece of work. But you don't really need to be part of a corporation or, kind of do that top stake stuff. I think the world's going to get simpler. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people just to unlock enough value for themselves, being a free agent, and probably doing kind of like what we're doing here, like build a network of like-minded people that help each other to go and help the economy shift.
Yeah.
I bought a pool this week, and I got the 5 different company quotes, threw it all in the Claude, and said, just review this, see which is the better offering, which is the best commercial offering, what some people are offering that other people aren't offering, where are some limitations and what am I exposed to. It came back with like a big long report saying, yeah, this is the best, like a side-by-side table, this is the good one, this is the bad one, etc. And then I said, all right, looking at the equipment, which is the better offering. And so actually when you did a long deep dive, I actually ran out of Claude credits. It comes to a deep dive it did. And it came back and said, look, the one that you want to go with, it's only offering a mid-tier chlorinator, but it's offering a high-tier pump. You should ask for the next, you should ask for the next robot cleaner up because it's got these features, etc. By the way, it's on sale at the moment with a free caddy. So when you go and order the pool, make sure you ask for the free caddy. Like it was just, and so I went back and ordered the pool today and I went, right, I want this, and I want this much. And I went, okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It was really impressive. And on top of that, it actually coached me through like the benefits of each one of the pieces of equipment, why they are worth so much, why they're worth having, where it's wasted money. Like it was like, I think these touched on at the very start. It's like having an expert at your fingertips, and I could just glean everything I needed to know about buying a pool.
Mm. Amazing, isn't it?
There we go.
Yeah.
Who we are. Why us? The leadership team, the experience and capabilities, the methodology we use, the response priority framework, the customer service KPIs we offer, safety and quality assurance, value add and innovation, environmental, and apologies to this company.
Yeah, that's right.
Social procurement, compliance. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know how long it'll take you to write 16 slides that neat.
Probably a day.
Yeah.
Because I'd go outside and do something more interesting. But anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point. Like, I don't really want to write these documents.
No.
So I think the world is moving to a world where agency and outcome are what's going to get measured. Like, what am I actually doing in the physical world to change something to make a life better, rather than sitting around producing documents?
Yep.
So everybody's going to become, I think, more practical. And this is a big problem for Australia because we don't do much in the physical. I mean, other than farming and mining, we don't actually do that much in the physical world anymore. It's just a big sort of service economy. We sit in buildings. And look at Melbourne. Most of Melbourne are just people sitting in buildings writing documents. And, we exist because we have regulated monopolies that live in those cities that then run all the services for the rest of the country and the region. But if we've got these kinds of tools coming along and we're going to build new kinds of companies, then it's going to be interesting,
It'll
isn't
be
it?
a big change, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
That's very, very smart.
we'll do one more thing. I'm catching up for coffee with the client next week, next Tuesday. Could you outline for me a bit of a conversation script I could talk to the client with? And I want it to equally highlight the strengths and commitment of our bid, but I'd also like to drop some hints or areas to look that would perhaps create a notion of unease around my competitors. Just subtle conversation and be nice about it.
Mm.
So it knows the competitors and it's sort of like, well, what could we drop or say that would, I mean, salespeople do this all the time anyway. It sort of seems unethical in a way, but it's salespeople are doing this every single day, everywhere. But if you have the smarts to see what the conversation should be, this is a great strategic move. A casual coffee can be incredibly influential. Something to reference.
I don't think it's unethical.
No, I mean it's just competition, right?
You're out there to win a job. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to use all the tools that you've got.
Yeah, because if you don't win any work, you haven't got a living. Therefore, you
That's
can't
it.
feed your family. So. I was actually quite impressed with that. I thought that was all right.
Mm.
Okay, we're still going. Now, while this will be nearly done. Okay. You're not selling. Genuine interest in them. Thanks for making the time. Talk about understand the academic calendar. Listen for any frustrations. Show you understand their world. You've spent a lot of time. Can I ask, has this been the biggest frustration? What's the biggest frustration? So you get them to open up. Talk about actually working in education environments. Dual qualified workforce. Emergency response. You got something around, yeah. So they've got some talking points that you could talk about to try and connect you to some good questions. Leave the door open, don't overstay. These are some of the hard-hitting things you can point to. Yeah. Now, in terms of business, if we go back to this world, originally, you had to sort of work for this company to unlock this barrier to work for this client. But I think there's another asymmetric opportunity here to basically bring products and services to help companies get clients. Or it might be you go and look for clients and you actually go and identify the companies that would win and maybe incorporate something you're doing to help them win that work. So if there's some sort of service, so Randall's, say, a CAD guy, Bruce is a farmer. So you might say, go and look through the data set of the tenders and find me opportunities where I could work with a company on a particular gig. Imagine if Randall said, oh, there's this job coming up with BHP and there's another company that you think's going to win it, but you can actually bring CAD services to that deal. If you could actually basically understand this deal, write the script about this deal, about what needs to happen, bring that perspective to the company you've identified, and then actually do it as a pitch based on your services, then you might be able to partner. And I think this always works better with smaller companies, because obviously smaller companies don't have the wherewithal or and the resource, yeah. Or you could actually just build a business that helps companies do this process. Because this is actually a value, this is one of the key metrics that gets reported to board. How many tenders how many open opportunities do we have, and what's our win rate? So if you can help companies do that, and I think the next step would be building a sort of an agent toolkit that helps companies do it. And you could customize the toolkit to the company specification. So it could be specific to their industry, how it's written, the culture, their particular use cases, their qualifications, their workforce, whatever their kind of regulatory obligations are. You could tune the agent to basically do the work for them. And if it improves that win rate and also it reduces the amount of work to do that, that's a big unlock for those guys. So I think there's a potential company in that one as well.
Tim, as more and more people pick this up, like, to be ahead of the game is going to be pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, that guy I was talking to about the legal documents. Oh, yeah, we've got one lady in the office. She uses AI a lot. All right. They're a small firm.
Yeah.
As their younger staff join and their business sort of matures and, the older staff leave and the new ones, like, there's going to be 10 in their office using AI, but so will the lawyer down the road.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about AI getting rid of my job in my company with everything the same, but I'm terrified of someone building a completely new company with a completely new value proposition and then coming into the marketplace to sell a product or service that doesn't need a human in the loop. And I'll give you an example. You book a flight with Qantas. You either go to a travel agent, you go to their website, or you ring a call center and you book a flight. And then there's kind of like this process of, if that flight gets cancelled or changed, someone usually sends you an email or a text message to say, hey, the flight's changed. We've got to move you. If it's within so many hours of the flight, you might already be at the airport. And so they've got to deal with your accommodation or arrange some sort of transfer, or, there's all these things that they've got to adhere to. That whole process at the moment is probably some automated, probably some human. There's probably a human driving some of the stuff. And then there's kind of a feedback loop of what's going on. And, there's probably teams that work together to make all that happen on any given day. But I think if you were really good at AI agent building, you could build an agent that would just automate that entire process. So sort of like the service layer between you and the airline in terms of your flights is all digital. The whole thing's digital. And if one airline builds that black box that does everything digital at the back office, then you can't not adopt that, because if one airline does it and the other airline has the old system, they're not going to be able to compete on price. So it's just going to drive productivity down, which means flying is going to be cheaper. Yeah, but it will unlock enormous new sources of labor that we've never had before. So in actual fact, we probably should just do more stuff, more new services. It'll be smoother and faster and better. And but I think the notion of understanding the commercial trade-off, like understanding what's the market, who's buying what of who, and how can I try to automate my way into that value chain to identify opportunities for whether it's you want a job, you want to partner with someone, you want to help them improve their win rate. It's kind of like it's the transactional layer of where the economy ticks. And it's all sitting there. It's all like, I think you need an ABN to get access to that tenders website. So you can see all the commerce that's going on across the government. You know, all the players, it's all on the internet. Everybody's putting their stuff out on the web.
Not the CFMEU. I said not the CFMEU.
Oh, yeah. Get the Eskies out, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting how it goes ahead. I mean, AI, not the CFMEU.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the persuasion angle is really important too. So don't get lost on, we just tick all the boxes, figure out how the humans tick, because at the end of the day, the humans want to pick someone. It doesn't really matter what the rules are. They'll get a favorite based on who they like. So you want to try and build a relationship.
Yep, 100%. You know, you really have to sell yourself, don't you, to get the job, really. You've got to have that relationship. You know, it's not only price and can you do it and all this sort of stuff. You've got to be able to sell what you're doing too and yourself.
And if you think it's trust. They want to hire someone they can trust. I think that's so maybe there's something in that. Maybe I need to go and get AI to go, what's the psychology of trust? What do I do to gain someone's trust? And then when I write my responses, do it in a way that'll get that emotive response.
I was listening to a podcast during the week about a guy who offers voice agents for businesses. And so he basically goes in, and particularly for like one-man small companies, so like barbers particularly, or mechanics, something where you've got to stop doing stuff to go answer the phone. And he charges them $3,000 to set up a voice agent, and then has a recurring like $200 a month maintenance fee. And he said every one of his businesses that he's dealing with has just skyrocketed in productivity because they're not stopping cutting hair to answer the phone, or they're not stopping fixing the cars to answer the phone. The AI agent has a whole bunch of things it can relate to. So when you ring up the normal landline, it sounds like you're talking to the owner. So the AI voice is actually trained on the owner's voice. And so then it will actually book appointments, it will answer all questions, it'll do opening times, so all those things that generally stops the productivity. These AI agents for $3,000 is. And so I'm looking at it and going, wow, that's actually a really easy thing to implement. You reckon it's taking about 4 or 5 hours per company to do it?
Yeah, pretty smart, isn't it?
And
so
he does it once, and
it
he gets
to the point where it's like it's linked to a number, and so if you want to book, it'll actually say, look, these are the times available. You can say, I want this time, and it'll send you an SMS with the link, and you just click on the link to confirm that, and that's your booking time, and it's locked in. Like,
you know, we've all been to the hairdressers or the mechanics, and the bloke runs off to the phone, or the hairdresser, you know, picks up the phone. I mean, I don't have a real problem with the hairdresser, but anyway, you know, like they do, don't they?
Yeah, and so I think that's the sticking point. I'm not sort of sticking, but the challenge is finding those bottlenecks and those pain points, and how like alleviating those pain points, because people pay to alleviate those pain points.
And in that case, Randall, like you could build one for that business and show them, send it to them.
Well, actually, what I might do, I might put a link to it. It was actually a really interesting chat. It was the guy actually changed his own voice agent introduction to the barber's company name in the barber chair while he's getting his hair cut.
Oh,
And so he actually did a real-time demo and said, look, here you go, call yourself. And it actually would then, he'd actually pre-done it so that when he went to the barber, it wasn't a case of this is what I can do for you. It's this is what I have done for you.
Yeah.
Is this of value to you?
I'd like to see that too.
And you could even you could build it for them. Go and get a haircut at a different barber every single time. Have your little script or pitch of what you're trying to do. Get your hair cut and pay them $25, but also say, hey, here's this agent. Try it out for a month. See if you like it. If you like it, I'll charge you an amount per month. But if it increases their productivity and they have to go to the phone all the time, then it's just, you just got to make sure the value is real and they can see that value.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The guy that they were talking about was actually saying that the barber was amazing first. It was more luck than good management because the barber has one-on-one attention with the person they're cutting their hair with. And so the barber is like his number one sales agent. So every time like a mechanic, a concreter, someone like a tradie comes in, he's like, hey, you should see what XYZ has done for me. Have a look, get a load of this.
Oh.
And so basically the barber is like selling you his services.
Well, this
almost
is the other thing. You could have the conversation with the barber. I'll put it in for you for a cost. But if you on-sell it to one of your customers, meaning if you say, this is great, this is fantastic, I'll go 50-50 on the trial fees with you. So if you bring me a client, I'll give you 50% of the money. So now you've got a barbershop who's like also a sales engine for like some digital service. And all of a sudden he's making, you know, if he's charging $100 a month to the mechanic, he might be getting $50 a month revenue from all of his referrals. And he's literally cutting hair all day and he just has his little script in his mind of, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a mechanic. Oh, yeah, hey, you should see this, rah, rah. You know, you should talk to this guy. And it's like, just basically book the connection back and yeah.
Pretty amazing.
Any other questions, guys? I think I've sort of exhausted what I was going to do.
No, very interesting. Normal, Tim.
So what do you want to do next week? I'm always interested in what other people want to do. Is there something you want to build? I think Randall was talking about building a barbecue cutting business or something.
Oh, it doesn't need to be that, but I think I should suggest to you do a market research on all your competitors and then start doing, you know, what services you can offer versus how much it would cost, do a financial breakdown, work out your costs, work out your profitability, and then get it to identify holes in the market and publish a website. Because I have done that in about an hour and a half before.
Yeah.
All right. So next week we'll do how to think about business ideas. Something that you might want to, you know, if you don't have a business idea, but you want to start a side hustle, how you'd go about figuring out the side hustle.
I'd like that. I reckon that'd be great. I've got two sons that are looking for sort of starting to do something themselves.
And
I reckon that sounds like a good idea. I said, I reckon that sounds like a good idea for next week.
Certainly.
Yeah. We might even build an agent where you put in like what your inherent skills are and then how to think about how you could apply those. Maybe we'll build like a little questionnaire or something in an agent, you know, answer all these questions and then it'll go off and think about ideas or value, and then we can do some deep research on the value points and then we'll look at it through the lens of AI, like what we could do to kind of solve a little problem. And
you need to have a bit of a capital budget too.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, you know, it's got to be something that you don't need $1 trillion to get into.
This is the other thing too, because every process and every person is now a potential client. You actually want to think about what are the products or services I could build that actually don't take a long time, and also have a start and an end and aren't going to get you in legal jeopardy. Because if you said to someone, I'm going to offer you a service by the month, and then you wrote a contract that said, I reserve the right to end the service at the end of that month, then you've only got really a liability till the end of a month. Whereas if you went and built a piece of software and said, I'm going to give you this perpetual license and you've got to support it forever, that's potentially a real risk. Like, you wouldn't want to sell that to a business. So maybe we could think about some of those things as well.
That's very good.
I just popped a link. So this guy is that's what he does. The podcast is all about side hustles, and particularly using AI to generate side hustle income with no outlays. So that one I just popped a link into the chat to is, he's very interesting. He's American though, so he speaks slowly, so I always make it like 1 times 1.4 speed, because otherwise there's lots of gaps in when he talks. But very interesting.
There was one guy who also, I think he built a startup every week for a year. So he built 52 startups in a year, and I think he made over $3 million in 1 year.
Really?
Yeah. So I think there is an implicit like there is no real limit to this. I mean, you saw I just bid on a piece of work. I could potentially reach out to those people at that company and say, hey, and I don't know what your script would be, because it'd be a bit weird, because they're probably bidding on that piece of work anyway, which is hilarious. But you might be able to find some way to talk to people, to show people what we just did, and they could bring that value to their business. And this, like what we did tonight, is a very, like, pretty much every business has this problem, so it's not controversial, I don't think.
No, certainly not.
What's the what's the go with this? Was it the malt book? Is that the thing that people are kicking off about recently?
What's this called?
I thought it was malt book, which it used to be like it was like a Claude co-work style AI that everyone seems to be jumping all up and down about how clever it is, but how cheap it is.
This is Claw something.
Yeah, it used to be Claw. Yeah, it used to be Claw, and they had to rename it.
Yeah, I think that's the one everyone's buying new computers, because it can control everything on your computer. So if you give it access to service, it can go off and send emails to people on your behalf. So it's like, it was wildly powerful. I've also heard people though, it can go off and go crazy and do a bunch of stuff, and then it leaves you with a big token bill as well. So yeah, I'm a bit cautious on that particular product at the moment. I haven't tried it yet, but I have heard a lot about it. I just don't want the big token bill, really. The thing I like about the Claude Max is it's pretty expensive. Like, it's that tool I was using tonight was $160 a month. But I actually think you actually don't need any other tools. I think that is probably enough. And I just look at it as, it's probably $40 a week. And you're like, well, if that increases your productivity and your quality by 50%, 80%, and you do it as a percentage of your wages, then you can tax write half it anyway. It's kind of a no-brainer. Like, it's just going to make your life easier. It's just, less work, and you're going to perform better. And so it's, but it is not a level playing field, is it? I mean, people just aren't trained to take advantage of that kind of thing. Like, someone gives you a robot that can produce a PowerPoint deck of high quality in 6 minutes. I mean, what's $40 worth? I mean, if you think just a good wage, $40 is not, it's not going to bankrupt you, particularly if the tax man's going to give you $20 back. It's like $20 a week. It's like, what, $3 a day?
Yep.
Just stop having coffees.
Yeah, that's right. Make them at home.
And if I was a young
I got
person,
it to, yeah, I mean, I got it to simulate a bunch of stuff the other day because I think I've mentioned before about that lying in the chute situation where it takes forever for me to do it. But I was finding that the script that I had there was one spot, and it was very hard for me to physically describe back to it when it was happening. So that's probably the thing I come up against the hardest is it doesn't have eyes, so you can't see what you're seeing on the screen. So I actually got it to write a simulation tool using the algorithm from my code, but in a software that it would then be able to effectively see because it was generating all the coordinates. But it did it with slide bars, so I could sit there and instead of having to draw up 100 different sizes of chute and then run it and go, I worked on 98 of them, I could just sit there and it would watch me as I move the slide bars backwards and forwards. The pattern would redo itself, and then go, oh, hang on, there's a spot there. Like it was. Hang on, let me do that and do this. I forgot this was actually on YouTube the other week, but anyway. How do I share? Was it you? Am I presenting? No, stop sharing. Share. How do I share on bloody? I'll share that. Oh, there, that's why. There. You can see I use it a lot. Everybody see that?
Mhm.
Yep.
So these are all the little tiles that fit on the inside of my chute. And so as I sit there and make the chute wider, the algorithm reruns, and in real time you can see whether the algorithm works for that system,
Yep.
for this system, whether the chute's got like a weird offset to it, the chute's taller.
And you would
every
have to
time you
do that
it'll
manually
actually,
in the past.
yeah, it's actually in real time, it's debugging it, going, this all works. You can see there's actually like a row analysis down here, it's all green. So every one of these tiles is actually available to be cut from a standard tile. So there's no specials that you need to order to line this entire chute.
And you would have done that manually in the past.
Correct. I would have sat there and gone 300, 300, cut, 300, move that over by 50 mil, insert, cut. Oh, that one doesn't fit, start again. And basically, like I said, that chute would normally take me half a day to try and get right, and it does it in real time.
Amazing, isn't it? Yep. Yep. I'll look forward. I'll try and have a listen to that podcast at some time.
Yeah, I find him very good to just listen to while I'm working away. He's he does a lot of side hustle-y style of businesses.
Damn, I was mowing the lawn today. It would have been an ideal thing to listen to.
All right, guys. Thanks
All
for
right,
coming.
thanks, Tim.
Hope you learned something. See you next week.
Yep.
Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you. Thanks
Thank-
all.
Thank you. See ya.
Guys.
Bye.